We are streaming.
All right, I'm gonna wait till it actually says live before I start saying anything.
Cool.
All right, I see that it's gone live, so I think we can start.
Yeah.
Or is there's going to be a delay? Well, actually, no, it still says offline. Are you
It
sure
went
you're
back
streaming?
offline.
Oh, there we
Now it
go.
went back
There we go.
live.
We're good. I think we're good. All right. Cool. So here we are on a beach, and before we explore anything, I just want to say this is the first time we've actually done a live update for a live audience, and we're actually going to try to take some questions. I can't promise we'll take every question in the chat, but if you have a question or an idea, and if the timing is right and I see it, then I'll relay that question to Adrian and Jason, who are both on the stream with me here. And I guess people probably care about the alpha. We've got some questions on the Kickstarter page as to whether it's on schedule, and it is. So we still will be releasing around Christmas time. In fact, we're shooting to release earlier than Christmas on Steam. So a lot of this month will be cleaning things up, optimizing the game, making sure it'll run on your computer, and getting it up on Steam.
And fixing it so that I don't slide down the sides of hills when I'm just standing. This is driving me crazy right now. I don't ever stand still in the game, so I hadn't realized that we have to just.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. Okay, cool. So let's let's just kind of do this freeform. Why don't you walk around, and if we see something new that wasn't there in the last update, or just something particularly awesome, we'll point it out.
Yeah,
I still love the water.
I don't fully remember what was.
We'll take note of questions that are asked as they go, but we might not be able to answer every question as it's brought up.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't 100% remember everything that was in the last update.
That's okay.
But it's all cool assets and stuff. And here is something new that we started doing.
So what is this thing here?
Jason, do you want to explain what this is?
Oh, I think I see that is an unfortunate creature that ended its life in a sad little valley somewhere.
So we spent a lot of the last month trying to make. So we did all this stuff with doing the spells and everything, but we wanted the game to feel a little bit more meaningful, and we talked a lot about. In the last update, we talked about doing mana collection and stuff like that, and we tried some stuff like that, and it didn't feel right. We think like maybe for certain game modes it'll work, but there was just something missing. So we decided to kind of go out of order and add life right now. So it's very, very rudimentary life. It's not very intelligent. But it adds some meaning to the game that's really fun. It just gives you something to direct your spells at.
I have to admit, it doesn't look very lifelike right now.
Yeah, totally.
So this is a dead life.
Yeah, this is a dead one. Yeah, this one did not make it. They have very simple. Death. Yeah, they're not this boring. So yeah, they run around and they collect water. And then they go back to their dens. So maybe we'll run into more of these. But this little guy right here is just had an unfortunate time finding water.
Oh no! All right, cool. Well, maybe we can find.
It's a tough world right now. This is what's funny about adding a complex creature really early is that like we have to give it super simple rules. So. It's like it's living in a pretty harsh world.
Yeah,
where all it can do is look for water, rest, and die. So hopefully, we've got a lot of. I did an enormous amount of sort of testing out ideas for how it would behave in a bigger ecosystem and like what kind of niche it fills in the ecosystem, but we can talk about that later when we look at the concepts and see them moving around.
Awesome. Yeah, they'll definitely be much more intricate, and we we actually don't want to get too caught up on life just yet, but it just seemed like giving you something to direct your spells at, or to interact with in the world seemed to add, it just seemed to make this part of the game more interesting as well, so we really liked it. But
Cool.
anyway, I actually just stumbled upon a temple, and these are procedurally placed temples. There's 2 more over here, and it's actually quite rare that it would place all 3 in visible range of each other. But these do nothing. They're just kind of fun little things that randomly appear on the world, and they play some cool ambient music. But yeah.
And so, but they may not do anything, but it's sort of evidence of a history to this world.
Yeah.
Later on in the update, we're gonna hear from Jason about a lot of the lore, which he's been doing a lot of cool work on, and so I assume that these temples have their place in the lore of CodeSpells, just like everything else.
Yeah, and we will.
They probably will.
Yeah, and we do.
But
we
it's
do
kind of
want
hard to
them.
say.
We do want them to do something eventually. We have a lot of ideas for things they can do. So
right now, what they are is a placeholder object that we wanted to see, like, what would happen if we spawned a large sort of thing you can walk on, and what does it do to the terrain, and how does everything adapt to it if you like just stick it randomly on the ground? And so I think that's mostly what they're for right now, but they do have they will have a larger significance, and they'll also look a lot more cohesive and feel a lot more like an actual structure than they do right now.
Cool.
Kind of just feel like a collection of rocks right now.
yeah. And this one that's floating is magic.
Yeah, totally
So,
magic.
That's not a mistake at all. So
All right, so I want to see. Oh, there's something living.
yeah, here's the little guy. So he's just returned to his den, and he's sitting in his den. He has a similar problem to the player where he can't sit still. So he's kind of sliding out of his little spot right there, but he's hanging out. Once he gets thirsty enough, there's no colliders on this stuff. This is all like super early art.
Very temporary, Dan.
But there's no colliders on it or anything, so he's kind of clipping through it. But he's just kind of hanging out. And if we wait long enough, he should get thirsty. He or she, I don't know. I don't know if they have it. Do they have a gender? Are they all?
So
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet, but I do have plans for them.
So you're saying right now he's in his like hanging out state. He's got
Yeah.
plenty of water and he's just chilling in his den. But if you wait long enough, he'll run out of water.
Yeah, I can also just push him into the water just to make things a little bit more interesting.
Wait, will
he
that
actually
there you go.
just
There he
got
goes.
excited and he's thirsty again, so he's walking to the water. If I get too close, he will start attacking me.
Oh my gosh.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting, but yeah, he got to the water. Now he's there's no animation for this, so they kind of like flip around and do weird things when they
Oh my
hit the
gosh.
water.
Face to the water.
But he seems
Does he
pretty
see you?
happy. Oh no! Now
Oh,
he sees me. Okay.
Oh shoot. Wait, are you? Oh, you're pushing him backwards. That is awesome.
Yeah. So actually, I wrote. I can show this. This is a pretty fun spell right here.
I'm glad the
Like
game
this-
pauses while you.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
So you can actually, once it's multiplayer, I guess you're not going to be able to do that, which will make things a little more hectic, or you can open it up to the game mode. But at least for the creative mode, it makes a lot of sense. So this spell is kind of fun. It basically it shoots it, and once it hits him, it just stops and holds onto him, so it'll kind of pin him in place. So if I
that's
I
awesome.
shoot him, the orbs will just grab on. He can't really move while they're active. And so it's kind of a
Oh, that's awesome. So if you had more mana on that spell, you could pin him for longer. I'm guessing.
yeah. We can increase the mana on those.
So now you're allocating 10 mana points to your pin spell.
Yeah, and you can see it kind of pulling him back there, but one of them is not strong enough to hold him back. But if I shoot two at him, it keeps him pinned right there.
Right, because it's a game of forces. You apply some forces with your spell, but the creature has some force of its own.
Right. Yep. I do really like doing this as well.
Oh, that's a cool way to protect yourself. So they can't get up the slopes. They're too steep?
They can.
Okay. Okay.
But when things get too crazy, we can always just do this.
Oh my god, that was the most awesome thing
I don't
ever.
really know where he went.
Wait, will he
There
die?
he goes.
Yeah,
Well,
so they lose right now. The way that it works is when they hit something or they get hit hard enough. There he is, and that looks pretty.
So did he didn't die from that?
I don't think so. No, he's still walking over there. It's kind of hard to see. He may have. They lose water whenever they get hit hard enough, and depending on the strength of the hit, they'll lose water. So if they get too low on water, then they die. Once we get a little bit farther along, we'll add more details to the behavior. But right now, we're just trying to keep it as simple as possible. So they just have one thing, which is water, or their water level. I don't know what he's doing over there. He's actually on that rock. I can swim over to him. I found a couple of other guys right here, but we can actually go check on him and see what he's doing. The swimming is completely broken right now. You just kind of act like you're floating, and then while you're swimming, you lose water mana, which is
Right, while you're underwater. Which is cool. So the more water mana you have, the longer you can stay underwater, essentially. Which is pretty cool.
But for now, I can just cheat and walk on water. I don't really know what he's doing up there.
What is he doing over here?
He
No one
landed,
goes over here.
He landed over there. This is the one that I threw. I'm trying to pull him back. Oh yeah, he died. Okay.
He died.
Yeah.
Can you push his while he's dead? Can you push him?
Yeah, it's a little disturbing. They don't have ragdolls or anything yet. So
We definitely can.
yeah. There's some issues with colliders here, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to see them. There he is. Yeah, he's just stuck there. So, I'm losing health. So once you run out of water mana, you start losing health. All of that is not tweaked at all for the creative mode of the game. Will probably just allow you to be underwater all the time. There's no reason to not allow you to. We're just messing around with different.
While Adrian swims to shore here, let's answer a few of the questions from the backlog here. Some of these are good. I hadn't even thought about them. Okay, so for example, Jack asks, "Can you launch yourself like that?" And I think this was in response to launching the creature up in the air.
Yeah, you can't right now. It's something that we're adding in the API is to be able to create a connection to yourself. But yes, you will be able to. We're going to add another function. Right now, there is a thing called onHit. So if we take like the lift object, there is an onHit function. We're going to add an onHit self or onHit other player. So then you can actually do different things depending on what you hit. We may have to change how much mana it uses depending on the balance of the game. Eventually, we'll have to open that up to the to players to set up in their own game modes. But yes, you will be able to cast the spells on yourself. Right now, it's deactivated just while we were writing spells because it was a little messy when you were trying to write an orbit shield and it kept colliding with you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you will be able to.
So speaking of messy, question for Jason, because this is an artistic question: will there be gore in this game?
I don't think there will be gore in the way it's represented in most games. If we have life and we expand it out into systems of predation and stuff, inevitably have to have scavengers, and so there will have to be some dead things that get eaten. by something, but I don't think we want to spend an enormous amount of time making it as gory as possible. I think we'll just make it as, it'll be. I think it's going to be like I don't know,
Oh, no.
Animal Planet level of gore or Discovery Channel level of gore.
No. Sorry.
Oh no.
I got. One of them was going back to his den and saw me.
The game is certainly not about mangling people. That's for sure.
Yeah. What is that weird spike ball? That is actually something I forgot to ask about.
Oh yeah. So we have a couple objects that are being placed on the terrain right now. Adrian.
Oh yeah, the
if you
spiky
look up there,
balls.
you can see there's taller rock assets that are sticking up out of the terrain that are like sort of like sheer cliff faces that are really high up. Then we have these things that look kind of like cactuses. We have two types. One looks like a spiky ball. I call it a potato. And the other one is like a cactus, more like it has like a classical, like like a tree almost.
Yeah, these.
And there's one. And right now they don't do anything. We put them in to sort of test how many objects we could randomly place around on the terrain and stuff. But they do have crystals which are emissive and have a certain color. And as we start to add more environmental factors to the game, like heat or anything else we want to add, like humidity or light, or it could be anything, we want them to be sort of like visual sensors for those things. So it's like you could look at it and see that the temperature is changing, or you could look at it and see that maybe it signals when there's another life form nearby. And so you can use them sort of to read the environment around you. Like maybe there's a water spring up on a mountain, and you can tell by the color of those crystals that there's water somewhere near them. So you know that's like a good starting place to go.
Right.
So we want all these things to meaningfully fit together, even though they're not technically alive. They're not plants. They have some sort of dynamic use for the player in the world.
Cool.
And hopefully the player can interact with them. We haven't really discussed all the possibilities, but hopefully the player can get in there and change the color of them by changing the code.
Yeah.
So I got a question here. I'll answer this one actually. How open will the game be to graphic mods in the future, like switching out the textures and models? And the answer is we don't know yet, but it is something we're discussing. Adrian, I don't know if this is still possible, but we got a question. Can we switch over to the JavaScript version of one of these spells? Is that still something we can do through?
I think I might have broken it today when I was messing with stuff. Yeah, you can kind of see it. I don't know if for the alpha we will have. Yeah, it's getting cut off here. Right now, it's mainly for debug purposes. I'm not sure that for the alpha we will have the JavaScript fully functional.
Right.
Particularly because we don't have good error reporting and we don't have like a clean API that we can display. So a lot of it is just, it's hard to, with Blockly it's a lot easier to just see what is available. With JavaScript, it being much more open-ended because you're typing, we'd have to implement a cleaner API that clearly tells you what you can and cannot do. So that's not currently planned for the alpha.
Right.
But we will. I'll get it working so that you can see the debug version of your spell. So you should, for the alpha, you'll be able to see the compiled JavaScript of your spell. You just won't be able to write it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know from experience that creating coding editors is pretty hard work.
Yeah, and we want
done that.
We want it to be as natural as possible. We don't want it to feel like you're just writing a text document and then it doesn't make any sense. We want it to highlight things properly. We want it to tell you what is available in the API and stuff like that. So for now, I don't think we'll have time to get that in for the alpha, but that is still a planned thing.
Cool. Someone asks, what about modding in general? And I mean, it's definitely something we're interested in. The whole point of CodeSpells is about creative freedom. Obviously, the spells are miniature mods of themselves. I also know that we can. It's theoretically possible to customize the UIs because they're written in HTML and JavaScript. So it's actually very easy to swap out user interfaces if you want to. It's not necessarily something we're going to explicitly support, but it is something that should not be hard to do. And I definitely would love to see a modding community come up around this game.
Yeah, and I think the whole idea behind the game is for the game itself to be internally moddable. We want people to create their own game modes and mess with all the variables that are already exposed, and to write scripts that define the rules of the level. So, in a way, the game itself is just completely moddable how it is. I'm gonna mess with this guy.
So actually, yeah, this is a good. What did you just piss him off?
No, I just made an explosion spell, which for some reason made him snap into it. I don't know what happened.
So let's segue quickly into some lore and a little bit of the artistic design process.
Yeah.
I think starting with these creatures is a good thing. So these creatures have not actually been in the game very long, and so just a couple of days ago, I think Jason put together some mock-ups for them. So can we switch over to that? I think
totally.
people may be interested in how we actually add content to the game.
Yeah.
And I want to give Jason a chance to show off what he does.
Yeah. So I think. Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, so here, this is the first concept I did of it. Now, the way that we decided to pick this creature is we wanted to make one really fast. So we, full disclosure, used the Unity asset store to get a base creature that had the animations we would need. We wanted a creature that already had animations for walking and eating and resting and all that stuff. So we found a really nice base one in the asset store, and then I took it and I took screenshots of it from the side and from the front, and then I painted over those to show how I envisioned it to look. So all those things up at the top, all those images are just reference images. The first two are, they're for color reference mostly. They show the sort of color contrasts I wanted to highlight in the animal. I didn't really use them as structural, like I want it to look like a monkey or a bird. And then, looking at a warthog for how I might think about these sort of horns coming out of it, and a lizard for the scales. And then the one on the far right is just a concept that I found that someone else had done for a creature that I really liked because it had a lot of really nice folds in its skin. I like things that are really colorful, so I immediately went to super saturated colors. I think it also makes them pop more in the environments. You can see them from far away, you can spot them. Definitely, as we keep iterating on these creatures, we'll probably make ones that blend into the environment a little bit more, that have like camouflage behaviors and stuff like this. But these guys I imagined almost like honey badgers. Like they're these really tough animals that fit into the ecosystem in a lot of ways. Like they can scavenge, they're predators, they can withstand a lot. They sort of like dig these little dens, and then they can kind of just fit into slots in the ecosystem. So they will eventually be very adaptable animals. Right now, obviously, they're really simple. So after doing this concept and thinking about how they'll behave and look, I took the model and I put it into ZBrush, and I remade all of the skin and the textures. So I sculpted out a totally new creature based on from the base mesh that we got, and then sort of based it on like a pit bull or like dogs and the musculature of dogs, like these barrel-chested kind of little critters, and then I painted them just like the concept, and I used the concept as my color reference and just went straight for it. And then the horns and stuff were added later in Unity, the ones that extrude out from the face. It sort of like has a mane of like horn extrusions that it would use to help it sort of dig out a little den. They're kind of like little shovels on the side of its face, so it can like burrow into the ground really well.
So one thing that people watching may not know about you, Jason, but I want to tell them is that Jason has spent just an insane amount of time out in nature, and at least one of his dreams is to go out and live in a log cabin in the woods for at least a year minimum. And so why is that relevant? Like Jason gives an insane amount of thought to how creatures work. You could probably ask him like about the mechanics of this thing's foot or its like mandible bone. Like you could literally ask him about how the jawbone works, and he's probably thought about how the animal's jawbone works. And but not only that, have you? And he gives an equal amount of thought to ecosystems and nature and how these things will interact with other animals. Actually, can we pull up that one life concept art? It was one of your earliest pieces. It's actually, I love this piece. I want to get a printout of this. So this thing, I love this thing. Actually, can you tell us about these animals? Because these, no doubt, will find its way in there somehow.
Yeah, somewhere in the game, I'm sure. A big like niche that you see a lot in nature are these like fast mammals that are herbivores and traveling groups. They're usually really successful because they feed off of grass, which is usually very plentiful, and they also are evolved into incredibly fast, and their group dynamics make them hard for predators to just like wipe them out because they can confuse predators, and enough of them can escape and attack to continue on. I think eventually we want to have a critter like this in the game, and I've been actually working on a couple of sketches and concepts for how to take this guy and actually get him in there. And I imagine that a big thing is that they need behaviors that feel natural, but they also need behaviors that feel like they work within a game system, and that they're really apparent to the player, and that the player can immediately see how they could use that behavior to their advantage, or how they could modify that behavior to change something about the world. So, there's a lot of ideas that I have kicked around, and we're definitely not at the point to implement all of them, but we're starting to think about little, like, what does this guy eat? He eats plants that drop from trees, so now we need trees. And maybe he also forages on bushes that grow on the ground, so now we're going to need those bushes. And maybe insects that burrow under this. So the more those bugs are around, the fewer these guys you'll see around, because they'll be deterred, because it's kind of like you can start going down that trail and never end. So just been roughly sketching out ecosystems, and then also ways that those ecosystems can get thrown off and be kind of like chaotic. Because a big thing with game design is you build the system and you see how it works perfectly, and then you say, okay, well, what wrench could I throw into this system to throw it off, to make it more difficult for the player or for whatever agent in the world to accomplish its goal within that system. And then they start to come up with interesting ways of doing it, and then you get a living kind of feeling to it all.
So how do you feel about being able to ride these things? This is a question from the chat.
How do I feel about it?
Sorry, I should have clarified. Will players be able to ride animals?
Oh, these guys? I don't know about these guys because
They're
right
more
now
like
they have
deer.
this giant.
Yeah.
They have this giant antler that sticks out of the back of their head that maybe is there specifically to keep people off their back.
You could hang on to that, or you can sit on that. You could
Yeah, you just sit on top of it.
just.
Actually, yeah, I mean, in terms of mounted creatures, we've definitely thought about this. There's not too much of a reason for them to be there right now. It's the sort of thing that we want to evolve out of the game. Like, riding on a creature sounds great, but if you can move freely around the world with magic, why do you ever need to get on top of a creature? It won't get you around faster. It won't do anything else. So it's like we'll make mounts in the game when they make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like
Totally.
it's a sort of thing that evolves out of systems working in a certain way. Like, oh well, there's a certain creature that can get up that side of that cliff really fast because it has like claws on its legs and it climbs up like a bug or something, and much faster than you could get up there. So maybe you would want to ride it, but we're just not quite there yet. That's a definitely long-term design thing.
Yeah, I think more of our through conversations we've had, more of our inclination has been that you could control the creatures. Like you could actually be one of those creatures. I think that would be more of the direction we would take first before implementing mounting them. It would be that you can actually become one of these creatures for a period of time.
Yeah.
So you would be.
Like Beastmaster style or
Yeah,
something
so
like that. Yeah.
But it would be, I mean, it would be incredible to be able to ride them. So I think that would be really cool to do eventually.
Yeah, I do too.
Another thing I saw scroll by in the chat, which I know we've talked about, so I'll highlight it, is that animals are magic and they may actually be able to cast some limited spells of their own, either at you or they just use it to operate on the world.
Yeah, no,
I think is cool.
That would be, yeah, we were earlier yesterday. I was really close to doing a dig spell for these creatures, where they would cast the creatures we saw in the game. I wanted to do a spell that they would emit an orb from their mouths that would dig into the ground if they ran into sand. But we've been trying to not get too caught up with life just yet. Like I said earlier, we want them there for to have the player have something to interact with, but we don't want to get too caught up just yet because we still have a lot to build before we go all out with the systems. But we definitely want to do super detailed things with the creatures.
Cool. Do these creatures have a name, the ones on the screen now?
I don't know. I've been calling them a bunch of different things the last few days. I think I've been calling them in the file names croaker, because I imagine that they would make some sort of like frog croaky noise.
The ones in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
we don't have any sounds for them yet,
yeah.
But they look like they would croak.
The ones in the concept image we were calling alpacas.
I love
alpacas. Oh yeah, these guys, the deer guys, because they have owl faces.
And they're kind of like alpacas.
Deer-like bodies. Yeah.
So current working names are croakers and alpacas. I like it. That may evolve. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, part of the fun of the game itself is that we want the player to sort of discover these life systems and come up with their own ways of talking about them too.
Yeah.
That's what's fun about it, is like you're getting to be a wizard, but it's sort of like you're playing like an explorer who gets to like see these things and decide what to call them. I mean, we will always have our own names for them and stuff, but I think it's fun for people to communicate about them in their own way too. So
yeah, and
we're not married to like a list of names yet or anything like that.
Yeah, and we want you to discover their behaviors also in the same way. Like we don't want everything to be clearly defined at the start. We want players to run through and see what these creatures are doing and just discover that. So we purposely want everything to be a little bit mysterious and undefined in that way.
And I think that's actually a great segue into the last piece of this update. So right now it's a single player game, and for a while it will be. In fact, I mean, there's always going to at least be a single player mode, and that single player mode will involve, exploring a world where there are no other people. And so, Jason, I know you've done some lore work to kind of explain why there are no other people. And you've done some really cool concept art to just kind of like show what the wizards are up to, why there are wizards, and why who you are and where you live. And what? I'll let you explain it.
Sure. So one of the things that I'm not super into like a real heavy-handed world story like this is your quest, you are destined to save the world. It's like I don't necessarily like when games sort of like force that story on you. So I think, but you also need context in a way to explain what's going on so that you feel like you're a part of something, which I think is important. So I was thinking a lot about like, where did these wizards come from? Like, right now you're just popping in on this random terrain and there's some stuff that's going to be going on, and eventually there'll be all these systems playing out. So why are you there? Like, why did you even go to this crazy place? So came up with the idea that the world that you're going to was the home world of these wizards, from ages and ages ago. Like, I mean, really, like, it doesn't even have to be like linear time. Like, it doesn't have to be like a million years ago, but a long, long time ago, these wizards lived on this world. And there was an impending cataclysm. I haven't decided exactly what it is or how it played out, but they knew their world was going to end, so they scattered themselves all across the multiverse, let's say. We won't even say universe. We'll say multiverse into all other dimensions. And they lived out lives over millions of years or generations in these other dimensions. And then eventually they were called back. And so in this picture right here, this little object is like a beacon that's calling them back. And if you go to the next image, you can see it's sort of in this cave here. And then if you zoom in on it, you can see these little specks of this little object. This is a tiny little thing. It's like the size of like a, I don't know, of a phone, like a smartphone, right? So you zoom in a little bit closer and you can see this, and you can see these little specks of dust. And if you zoom in all the way, you can see this is what is on those specks of dust. So the wizards are being called back to their home, but they're tucked away safely in this little cave in this tiny miniaturized world. So this object in the middle would be like a gateway, and this is kind of like their base of operations. This is where they all meet up. This is where they come back from their other dimensional worlds and they talk about what they found. And from here, the player goes into the world of the game. So the player will always start here and then go into the world of the game. And this is where we will explain about the game, and this is where the player can learn about the systems of the world and stuff like that, so that you'll always have like a sort of safe place to go back to, and it's kind of a place for us as designers to explain to the player what's going on in the game, and it's sort of removed from it. Trying to think of a good analogy in another game, but it's basically like a safe haven.
Yeah,
cool. And so you are an explorer. You're exploring a world, and in some way it's your home world, but from millions of years ago. Like,
yeah, and it's changed so much. So your job as a wizard is to go out armed with all your magic, and you're out in the elements, and you're out to sort of see what has happened to your world, like what has changed, what new life has evolved, and to use your magic to explore and create and play around in there.
Name animals.
Name animals. Yeah. And
Cool.
rivers and mountains and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we are up on 40 minutes, and I told myself we wouldn't go over 45 minutes. So I want to wrap it up right now. I just want to make sure neither of you have any last-minute burning things you want to say or anything I've forgotten.
No, unless there are any other questions, I think we're...
People are having an awesome discussion in the chat room,
Really?
which I really think is cool. But you guys
I don't have it up, so I don't see it. But...
yeah, the concept art will probably be up somewhere at some point. What kind of mana cost will be associated with various things? You know, there's a general that's kind of a general question about balance, and so we don't know for sure. I mean, you know, how much does an if statement cost? How much does using the tangent function cost? Who knows? We'll try something, and if that leads to good coding gameplay, then we'll keep that, and if not, we'll adjust from there. So, I mean, there are a lot of questions we don't know the answer to because we need people to test it and design it, and help us co-design it, give us their feedback. And in fact, that is what the alpha is about. So we'll be releasing mostly what you just saw today as the alpha. Hopefully in a form that will not break on your computer. That's going to be our goal this month. And we want you to give us feedback and ideas and tell us what works and what doesn't. I mean, we look at all of this stuff seriously. We can't take everyone's suggestions to heart, but we definitely like it when people are engaged and have cool ideas. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for this month's update. I'm glad we did it live and there are no technical issues. So I think we'll keep doing that.
Yeah.
Those little blue floaty eel guys in that painting are tiny multicellular organisms floating around in the dust.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Obviously.
It's not
I told you he gives a lot of thought to this stuff.
That was obvious, Jason. You didn't have to say that. We all knew it already.
All right, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Bye.